very much, and I've been sitting making some copious notes throughout some of the other presentations. And I think one of the things that strikes me, I chose to look at some of the diversity and the areas and where we've come through, and the journey that we've been on. And one of the things that struck me from all of the other presenters is that we all didn't start out going, do you know what, when I grow up, I want to be a cybersecurity expert. We all had a very different view of where we were coming from. I started out in a bank. I remember opening up bank accounts when it was the days where you could go, yes, Dallum is fantastic and I'll vouch for him. None of this FCC fraud, anti-money laundering and everything else. And then all of a sudden I started to become entrepreneurial. Knew it wasn't for me. I had a health and fitness studio, great for a few years, but really wanted to go and do something real. So I joined Mercury Communications. I was a blue button girl, and when I sit and talk to the grads and go, do you know what? I joined there when no internet. There was no things called mobile phones. They go, oh, you're really old, aren't you? So for me, diversity was having 2 lines that I could get out of a building. We talked about, Sarah talks about information security. Well, you know, I remember when information security was really easy. I built a big 6-foot tall wall. I had lots of iris scanners and fingerprinters, and that was great. You know, if you got in, well, we'd have killed you or put you on the barbed wires. I was always the last to have a microwave engineer when I worked for Mercury. For those of you that remember back into the days when they came in and charged the light fantastic, it was only them and BT. I was always the one going, well, if I'm going to repeat this microwave, oh right, okay, I'll have to just build the technology myself. Then I made subsea cables. I had a fantastic time building our internet networks. And I sort of started on my technical career. So I designed data centres. I built wide area storage. They were wild as well. And then all of a sudden, I became one of the boys. I'd sit round with the technical people, and I was one of the boys. And I thought, okay, maybe I don't need a technical engineer. Maybe I can design this network, and maybe I should stop self-doubting. And for all of us who are security professionals, whether we've come at it because we've been studying it since we were out of the womb, I doubt it, although some of our children seem to do that now, or whether we have just come by happenstance, as many of the other speakers have tonight on the platform, we're here and we are bringing that common sense, we are bringing that challenge. But what does that say? That says that diversity and inclusiveness is really important. It's important for us as an organisation, but it's important for our clients, and it's important in the world that we are doing business. Steph had some great examples. We grab them when they're young. We get them on a gaming thing. We say, you can build the latest security. It's fantastic. I want you to come in and tell me what I can do in my business, but don't expect to use social media. And I can't possibly let you bring in your own device. And if you're going to connect to the internet to tell me where the pothole is, then can you make sure you've done it 3 ways? You've told me which internet user. If it's an Android, I'm going to wipe all your data clean. Oh, okay. That's your technology, isn't it? So we're hugely aware of the lot of the issues that we're facing as technologists. But guess what? Our clients are facing all of that. Which is why for us, as we start to build and we start to look at this evolution and revolution, we need to make sure that our teams are representative. I love Steph's views of bringing in, you know, very different people to help us as we start to look at that challenge. Because do you know what? That's what we're doing every day in our life. That's what our clients are doing every day in our life. And we should be using that. And we should be grasping it. We should have the Wrinklies, the octogenarians. Barbara and I met in the lift as we came up, and you know, Barbara was talking about her father. Yeah, I'd love to have him in here going, now, okay, so what do you use? Okay, you use an iPad. What do I need to do to make you more secure? How can I embrace you? We've got great big ends of the spectrums. We've got our problem children, the youngsters that live their life on the internet and social media and Twitter and just going out to do shopping, had a bacon sandwich, brought a skirt. Really? All the way through to the wrinklies who just haven't embraced that technology and don't quite know what they're going to do with it. So we need to be looking at that as we look at security, as we look at the challenges that we have. Because do you know what? Security knows no boundaries. It is going to grab us wherever we are most vulnerable. And those are the things which we've heard. So at EY, we are really passionate about diversity and inclusiveness and the differences and the changes that make. I've got some very boring stats later on, which I'll get into. But it's great to look at having a broad range of a spectrum. And it's good to have that challenge, and in particular that challenge in a security environment. It's good to have that healthy ability to challenge and to establish that baseline and to start to look at and value those differences and recognise those differences. Because I recognise when I turn around and say to the grads, there was never anything like a mobile phone, they go into apoplectic shock. What do you mean, no mobile phones? What can I do? But what happens if the mobile network goes down? Yes, we've got CP&I, and we say we're going to get it back up in a certain service level agreement. But what will happen? You know, my connected car won't be able to go with my connected fridge, which won't be able to go to my connected supermarket to get everything that I've just ordered, because I've got no internet. And the thought of that coming for some of our younger generations, of not having that vital thing which is their right arm, and it's everything that they do, is the things that we need to challenge. And the only way we'll do that is having a diverse and inclusive team that allows us to get that high-performing team. So, we all want to create high-performing teams, and we saw that through everyone's presentation earlier. And we want to leverage that talent. We also want to make sure we celebrate the individual differences. There is nothing worse than having a cookie-cutter set of controls coming out. Barbara's example about Scrum and digital is a good example. What I do for taking in my traditional banking areas and looking at what I would normally do in those controls doesn't work in Agile and digital. It doesn't work for some of the ways that we want our client portals to be set up. So we need to be able to do that, but more importantly, we need to be able to attract, maintain, and develop future leaders. How many of us have seen a grad program? We've grabbed from Steph those wonderful bright young things, we've brought them into our grad program, we've nurtured them for a couple of years, we've given them that training, we've allowed them to develop. And they go, do you know what? I can get more money elsewhere. I'm off. And we just haven't looked at how we can take them through with us and take them and us on that journey. And that's what we need to do, because we've seen that the resources are scarce in cyber, and we know they're scarce. We know from EY, we've done some various surveys. Our last survey, which was last year, went out to 1,855 global organisations. 57% of them said that the scarcity of resources was one of the things that was holding them back in their security maturity. And we're not attracting, and we're not developing. We're letting Steph do these great gaming things, and these youngsters at grassroots just go back in and go, well, I couldn't find a job, and I tried to go on an apprenticeship, and you know what? Nothing happened. We need to be able to think about how we bring everyone in. And we've got that inclusive borderless team, which allows us to look at where we're going to on our journeys as our organisations. Absolutely, we hold people accountable. But more importantly, as we've heard throughout all the presentations, we eliminate those roadblocks. We allow people to become successful. So if the digital team are looking to put a client portal out in under 5 days, they can do it. And they do it in a safe and secure environment, and they know where they need to go to, and we can start to look to the future. And we embrace that across all of our spectrums. And it's great to see tonight that we have a mixture of everyone in the room as well. That's really important. We need to reflect that as we look into our cyber and into our security environments. I know sometimes when I look back, white, male, middle class, boring, technical, Cyber is the usual thing which we've seen. And it shouldn't be, because cyber knows no boundaries. It doesn't matter whether you're white, male, boring, technical. It will come and it will attack you. I know Sarah was talking about people being the weakest link, and they will be. Your people will be your weakest link. 47% of our organisations said that was the biggest thing that they feared, that despite doing their education and awareness programmes, yes, they still clicked on for Lionel Richie tickets because they thought it was a good deal. So, those things are things which we need to recognise as well when we're building our campaigns internally. So we've seen high-performing teams, those that have a mix of diversity perspectives, and you need to allow people to have that perspective. If the digital team are always saying they need to cut their production time, why is that? What have we done? How can we start to make them more effective? They do need to be managed effectively, and that effective management is often why, as Jane was saying earlier, women are more important to this, because we do have a different ear. We do have some of that emotional intelligence. I'm not saying, gentlemen, that you don't always have emotional intelligence, but there are some of your species that may well just continue down a route, despite the fact that there are other areas. And we need to be aware of that, because it is important that we manage our teams in the most effective way that we are trying to look at. Technical is not always the way we need to go. We talked about some of the business needs and the business areas. And often, security programs have been built with a technical need which has completely missed the business requirements that we're putting in place. And that's why having a diverse and inclusive mix of people in your team is really important. Don't forget that saging doubt of the person going, oh, and what about? Can we just think about? You need to consider all of those areas. So I talked about some very boring stats. 7% percentage points higher retention if you have a diverse team. It allows people to voice their opinions, feel that they are able to check and balance. I was thinking about Jane's examples about her children. And when you have brand new babies and they're not sleeping, you go and say, Jane, I'm not sleeping, is that right? Yeah, mine's not sleeping either. You go, oh, that's good. If you don't have that diverse and inclusive team, you don't have the opportunity to say, my control isn't working. Is that right? Yeah, no, mine's not working either. And that's why it's so important. So really it's looking at, the importance of getting that balance correct, allowing that safe challenge, and allowing you to move forward and accelerate. So, gender equality. So we are working extraordinarily hard at gender equality. And we've signed up to the National Pay Gap, and we will be publishing our results as well that say that our females are paid the same as our males are. We do have, in many of our areas, the 60-40 split. We have the tone from the top. All of our partners and our managing partners all have an objective in our scorecards which says that we want to have 60-40 male-female split in our environments, and we are managing that. We have 4 areas at the moment where I'm responsible for where we have that 60-40. For those of you that spotted in last year's partner intake as well, it was a 60-40 partner intake for EY in the UK. It was actually higher than that in the direct entry partners. We brought in more direct entry female partners than we did have, and we've tried to redress that balance from the top and the bottom upwards as well. So many of you may well have spotted the Times report last week on Thursday around diversity and inclusiveness and pledges from all of the organisations. I encourage you, if you didn't see that report, to take a look at it and see what some organisations are doing and how they're using that and how they're driving their technologies as well. And what are they doing to change and redress the balance and make it more inclusive? So you have got that coming through. And we're making sure that we attract that top talent and retain it. You know, as I said earlier, I joked about bringing in that grad and allowing them to be there for 2 years, and then all of a sudden leaving them go. And you've invested an awful lot of money in there. And you know, you just haven't got the right results. Jane spoke about the national productivity, and you know, we can see some of those areas around resource waste as well. We do have a number of women in leadership areas. We also have a number of the ethnic minorities as well. I just happened to pick up the women section here. But we are absolutely passionate about making sure people have that voice, not only within our own organisation, but also in our client organisations. I had a big dilemma tonight. I was supposed to be speaking at the Aviva Women in Technology session. I am one of the key sponsors from within EY around women in technology. And I said, no, I've already been booked. Dallin booked me months ago, so you can't have me. I'm starring on a stage in Covent Garden. And this is more important. But it is, I mean, I care passionately about making sure that at the grassroots level, we have role models and inspirations, we have mentors, we have coaches. We allow people to look at and see that it is okay to have a family. It is okay to juggle, maybe leaving work at 4 o'clock or not coming in because you've got an assembly. And it is okay to have that diverse set of teams, because that's what you need to be successful. And most importantly, I'm sure most of you have seen this before, it's that unconscious bias. We have seen those examples of the CVs which have been doctored. They are the same CV, but you've put a male and a female name on the top of it. And sometimes depends on which the unconscious bias is as to whether that male or female CV gets through. So if there's a one message that you take away from this, is that as our clients' needs are changing, as their business needs are changing, we also need to think about how our information, cybersecurity, data security, and governance teams are set up. And you do need to have that balance between technical geek and business. Once you have that balance right, it may not be one person. And that's where some of the things happen. We get this wonderful technical CISO who can tell you what he's going to do with his widgets and digits and his firewalls and everything else. But he has no idea what the business is trying to achieve and no idea what he's trying to support in there. So it is that balance, it is that inclusiveness, and it is looking at where the business is trying to go and building on that. This is a hugely exciting part of the organisation. I am proud to be part of here. The reason being, it's never the same. No 2 days are the same. You know, Lionel Richie tickets come and go, phishing attacks come and go, ransomware comes and goes, but it's always dynamic, it's always changing. We have to put the basics in place, we have to go and empower our teams, but more importantly, we have to be able to look at, become those futurologists of seeing what's coming down the line. What is going to be upsetting us, what is going to be attacking us, what is going to be the next thing that we need to put in place. And unless you have that completely inclusive team, you are going to miss something. Dallin, over to you.